I'm flying into a war zone, into the crossroads of Eastern and Western culture, into Afghanistan. After 23 years of conflict, war against the Soviet Union, a bitter civil war, life under the tyrannical regime of the Taliban, and now the war against Al-Qaeda, no one really knows what has happened to the art treasures of this country. I've heard stories of terrible destruction, but also of lost ancient gold and looted treasures that may still exist. And what is the real story behind the Taliban's destruction of Afghanistan's giant Buddhas? I'm on a quest to find out what happened and what survives. Kabul, 10th of March 2002. I meet my translator and guide for the next 3 weeks, Bilal. Of course, one gets a very funny sense about what to expect here in London. It's a good feeling. Lovely weather, sunny, warm, much warmer than I thought. I read reports of Taliban attacks on all aspects of culture throughout the country. Destruction of buildings and monuments, repression and persecution of artists and curators. But I've also heard rumours of untold treasures that still survive, hidden. I'm tired. I've just landed in one of the most hostile environments in the world after a grueling 16-hour journey.
How much are you willing to put yourself out for the project in terms of your own safety?
It's very tempting to take risks. And maybe we will, maybe we'll have to. But got to try and resist it to a degree. We want to find out what the implication is for the people of Afghanistan in losing their culture, having their culture destroyed in front of them by the Taliban. One does feel that we have a duty now to pursue this, to find out. And if that means taking a few risks, we have to do it. Oh yes, very handy. This city is a ruin, but its once proud buildings are a symbol of the thriving Kabul of the 1960s and 70s. This is the Kabul Theatre, the only modern theatre in the land, home to drama, opera maybe, dance, look over there. Wrecked during the Civil War, and of course, neglected by the Taliban. Decades of conflict have destroyed what was once a modern metropolis, aspiring to the future. So what's happened to this building now?
Now it's broken.
Broken?
Yes.
Look at these wonderful girls. What happened to these girls? You know, there they are, in their 20s. Travelling all over Asia, certainly. They're now in their 50s in burqas somewhere. I mean, it's poignant, it's extraordinary. It's like just taking Afghanistan's passed away in a box, isn't it, taking these? It's just so incredible, this world, so recent. And so, in a way, familiar to us. Lovely Afghan tour. Happy days. Camel tourists coming here. Six years ago, among the ruins of Kabul, the Taliban Ministry for the Prevention of Vice and the Promotion of Virtue planned religious rules for life. Banned were American hairstyles, gambling, music, and kite flying. Most puritanically, they banned all images of living beings. Out went photography, painting, and sculpture. For the Taliban, this was sacrilegious. It was the creation of an idol, strictly forbidden by the Quran.
It's like pictures in the 1890s, extraordinary.
This is the National Gallery of Afghanistan, its collection comprising the paintings most important to the nation. Almost all are now destroyed.
Look at that down there.
That's something. Yeah.
That's so brutal, isn't it?
This is a painting of an African man. It was presented to the gallery by an African artist. This painting shows a man studying.
I'm shocked and outraged to see this. The director must be much more so. Well, how does he feel standing over this?
When I came here and saw this, as an Afghan, I had tears in my eyes. Believe me.
The director of the gallery introduces me to a man who, heroically, saved hundreds of works by painting over the offending humans and animals.
I covered the living beings and oil paintings with watercolors to disguise them.
That was covered with a watercolor camouflage, so to speak.
Yeah, watercolor. Yeah, watercolor.
Wasn't it wasn't it easy to tell the difference between the oil paint and the watercolor? Couldn't the Taliban notice what had happened? It's very effective. I'm amazed how effective a bit of watercolor can be.
If the Taliban had caught me, it would have cost my life.
I'm off to the Kabul Museum. This is going to be a distressing experience, I know that. It was one of the great museums of the world, not much known, but fantastic collection. World-famous things, really.
Ooh. Good gracious, it's much worse. Look, there's no windows, there's no roof.
Yeah, no roof.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here.
This is what happens to a museum during wartime. All the rooms are like this.
But the damage here was through war. This is not the Taliban here. So what happened is the roof was burnt off, or I mean, it's incredible destruction.
It was reported on the 13th of May 1995 that rockets had hit the museum, and it was on fire. It had a wooden roof, you see. The display cabinet and the treasures were on fire.
The director shows me into a room that once contained the stupendous Bagram ivories before they were looted in the Civil War.
Lovely. Oh, gosh, the Chinese lacquer bowls over there. Oh, my goodness me. Well, this is a moment, yes, of mourning, because this is one of the greatest treasures in the world. So this is Buddhist art. This is really where the barbarism strikes home, isn't it? Coming to this room, such treasures, nothing, not even a ceiling now. Can I ask you what the loss of the museum, the loss of the artifacts of the museum, what that means to the people of Afghanistan?
Without a doubt, this is a sad time for the people of Afghanistan. They have lost their culture and their history. If a building is destroyed, you can rebuild it. But if a national heritage is lost, you can't bring it back.
Looting and destruction during the Civil War led to the loss of 3/4 of the museum's priceless collection. And what little survived fell into the hands of the Taliban. They set to work destroying any representations of living beings. I meet the curator who witnessed this attack.
What happened to this particular figure?
When the Taliban came first, they made us open up this room. They saw this statue of a man excavated at Kunduz province. They started hitting it with a hammer, but they could not break it. It's made of solid marble. So they came back the next day with a much bigger hammer and a pickaxe used for breaking stones in the mountains. and smashed away at it all day. I was made to watch. Slowly, the statue sustained marks and broke into pieces.
Having worked here for so many years and loving the place, knowing the place well, and how I can't imagine how you felt when you saw the axes and hammers falling on these wonderful objects.
I've worked with these objects for years, treated them with care and attention. I love them like my children. And then to see them being destroyed with axes, it was the most tragic day for me. Every human being would feel the same.
How could anybody bring themselves to smash things like this? It's beyond comprehension, isn't it? Just beautiful, artistic objects, once worshipped, but no longer worshipped here. They weren't a danger to anybody. They're just part of the world's culture. These are not mute objects. They themselves have a voice. They speak, don't they, of their own beauty and of the tragic behaviour of human beings. Oh my God. Face of suffering. Patient suffering. Bit of a lesson there, isn't there? There's more to the story than the Taliban and their ideological destruction of history, of culture, of beauty. Just looking around here is an astonishingly sobering sight. We're 6 miles from the centre of Kabul. This is an area called Darul Aman. This was laid out in the 1920s to be the new capital of Afghanistan, a country just recently liberated, finally won its liberation from the British Empire. On my left is the great Royal Palace. Standing here, one does understand with a particular power the suffering of Afghanistan over the last, 20 years, really. This was described in the 1970s as a luxurious park to my right, with a palace sitting over it. Oh my goodness, look! Yes, excellent. $10. $5. Five, okay. So three more dollars.
Yeah.
You've changed. Oh, you got $5.
Hey. Change.
Okay, thank you. Throw that in.
Oh, say.
Okay.
You find us.
Thank you. I've been looking for these. You wouldn't believe it. Very hard. So incredibly lucky. Oh, another guide to Afghan museum. Hang on. How much this one?
Fine.
Five. Right, so hang on a moment. If I swap it for this one, is that right? Can I swap? So I've given you 15 for all of those.
$5
more.
$5.
Hang on, I've got lost now. This is $20 for all of it. That's it, no more, okay. These books, guides to the museum in Kabul, couldn't get hold of until just now. And this shows the museum in 1974. And one just sees here the quality, the absolute quality of these things. This is the Buddhist figure that survives in the museum, just that bit left. Page after page tells the same story. This was no provincial backward of the museum. This really was a place containing objects, artifacts of the highest quality, and of this extraordinary cultural mix, representing the sort of cultures and civilizations that have moved through, possessed Afghanistan for periods, left their mark, left artifacts buried. There's fragments of buildings. There's Greek work here, Roman work, Hindu, Buddhist. These were looted, probably in the early 90s during the fighting. Easy to put in your pocket. One of the fantastic ivory panels showing these big background women, fantastic, wonderful, owned privately, criminally. It's one of the greatest cultures artists, really, certainly in post-war years, certainly almost, to I don't know when such a thing happened. It was in the Second World War. Yeah, I suppose museums wrecked. It compares with the great wrecking of museums in Russia and Germany during the war. Absolute disaster. I'm leaving Kabul for the first time, which is significant. Not quite sure what the roads are like, what will meet me along the road. I'm going to see the Minar-e-Chakri, which is a monument nearly 2,000 years old. Fantastic object. Until coming to Afghanistan, I believe the Taliban were just attacking images of beings, of animals, living beings, because they felt those were, offended the Quran. They felt they were images of idols. This is a Buddhist monument, but it had nothing on it, no carvings of beings or animals, so I imagine it would be safe. But no, not at all. Clearly, since the Taliban were wiping out all monuments to the past, this column became a target. Now, I know it's been damaged, as I say, not entirely sure how badly damaged. Things are going to be pretty bumpy from here in. Oh dear.
We're forced to stop at a vehicle checkpoint. We need the local military commander's permission to proceed. Getting to the Minar-e-Chakri will depend entirely on his goodwill. His guards invite us for tea while we wait.
We're very happy that you're here to tell the story of what happened to our cultural heritage. It is such a cruel way to treat any historical object.
How do you feel about the future of the country in terms of the children growing up in a country that's lacking resources and that had so much of its culture and history destroyed? What do you feel will their future be?
What a man remembers, he tells his son, and he in turn tells his son. I'll have to tell my children of the wonders of this country and its history. They can destroy our buildings and monuments, but they can't destroy our minds. We all have memories, and our past and history now lives on in them.
After 2 hours, the military commander arrives.
On behalf of us, welcome to this area.
Thank you very much. And you know why we're here, to see the remains of Minar-e-Chakri. How do we get there? In your vehicle?
In my vehicle,
okay.
Yes. You are welcome.
Okay.
What is this?
The military commander who's led us here has now decided that the road ahead, it's hardly road at all, could be mined.
No problem.
No problem. I believe you. Fine.
No.
Well, the local military commander remembered an urgent meeting in Kabul. Has gone. So we are now proceeding, minus him and his vehicle, but with his armed guards, over the minefield, as far as I can see, which he thought was here, but no one else thinks is here, but no, he's gone, and we are here. However, we're driving as near as we can get to the ruins of the pillar, and then walk it. We walk for an hour and a half, our guide slightly unsure of where they are heading, the sun beating down and the air becoming thin with altitude.
There it is. Fantastic. This is all that remains of one of the most fabulous, most enigmatic structures, buildings, wonders of the world. The Minar-e-Chakri.
The Minar-e-Chakri was built in the 2nd century AD. It stood dominating the landscape at 85 feet high.
2,000 years ago, Buddha wasn't shown in human form. He was shown simply as a symbol. And this represented the enlightened one, Buddha, standing on this mountain, commanding the plain of Kabul. And round about would have been a Buddhist monastery. Its loss is absolutely staggering, really. I mean, to consider it survived so long as one of the wonders of the world, certainly to compare with the pyramids, the Sphinx. And here it is. What happened? Well, I say we're not entirely sure. People blame the Taliban, say they destroyed it because they were destroying history, destroying the past, destroying, well, Buddhist memorials, or more mundanely, looking for treasure.
Mystery surrounds what actually happened to the Minar-e-Chakri. We go to the local village to ask if anyone knows.
At night time, we heard an explosion. The next morning, we walked up to the Buddhist pillar. We found it destroyed. We don't know who did it, but this was during the Taliban time.
Heard an explosion, suggesting there was a deliberate attack upon it. So what does he feel about it, about the destruction of this wonderful monument?
We are very sad. It was such an important thing for us, and so valuable.
Yes, yes.
Back in Kabul, I have a date with Nancy Dupree, American writer of the 1974 Historical Guide to Afghanistan, the definitive book on the country's cultural heritage, now sadly out of date. Her connection with Afghanistan goes back 50 years.
My question is about the recent events with the Taliban and what you make of all of that, because I still remain somewhat confused what was going on.
When the Taliban came in 1996, initially they were very, very supportive. And unfortunately, these hardliners began to take over the cabinet.
No music, that's profane, no flying of kites, no paintings. And that's another element.
They were wrapping things in the mantle of Islam. But really what they were trying to do was to wipe out this Afghan identity. Right. They were trying to deny the Afghans an Afghan heritage. We are all Muslims. This is the Ummah of Islam. Take a very, very simple example. We used to have Radio Afghanistan.
Yes.
All of a sudden, Radio Sharia, no Afghanistan.
Yes.
Wipe it out. This was a control mechanism which had been coming in on various angles. And this one with the culture was the most important. Yeah. And when the world heard that they were going to harm the Buddhas, that was just music to their ears. So they went up there and they made an example to the world,
of their will to destroy.
We are in control.
And
this goes on, you know, to September 11th, to what's going on now, to...
We realised at the time that on one level, the bigger the fuss that was made to save the Buddhas, the more likely they would be destroyed. Yeah.
Next day, we packed the 12-hour journey westwards into the mountains, to Bamiyan, site of the Taliban's infamous destruction of the giant Buddhas. But the day turns out to be a lot longer.
Well, halfway between Kabul and Bamiyan, one of the cars just broken down. I hope it can be mended, otherwise we'll be stranded in the dark on this pass going into Bamiyan. That would be very unpleasant. It's not bigger. How long now before they're finished? 30 minutes. But the fact that obviously they can't do it.
Yeah.
In Taliban times, you couldn't have been selling this music. No. So what, did you have these tapes?
I was a refugee in Iran. I've just come back with all my tapes.
What's a popular tape now in this village? What do people like to buy? Do you have one of her tapes? 40,000, that sounds all right, isn't it? Or do I have to deal, haggle over this? 40,000 seems good to me, yeah? Good.
I think that we will be there at 8 o'clock.
But it gets dark at 5:36. Well, no, I think he's thinking the roads themselves, it's dangerous. Driving is dangerous, isn't it?
We will see.
You know, there are mines by the road up there, so we might have to sleep by the roadside. Make a camp for the night, because we just can't go along those roads in the dark, can we? Well, we're still about 3 hours from Bamiyan, and night is falling. We haven't got to the Shabar Pass yet, and that's a bit of a worry, because we'll have to go through the pass in the dark, and the roads are very, very narrow. We've got to go. The chaps are calling us on, so let's see how it goes. Going through the pass now. This is pretty hair-raising stuff. The roads are very rough indeed, windy, steep, the snow around, so it's wet and icy, and the edge is only really sometimes a few inches away, and there's a 1,000-foot drop or so below. The advantage of being in the dark is I can't actually see what's down there. There's a curfew around about 10 o'clock, got to be off the roads. I don't think we're going to get to Bamiyan by 10 o'clock. Could be a few other active vehicle checkpoints along this road which trigger happy chats. One never knows what might happen.
This is the guest house, so we will stay here.
We arrive with 5 minutes to spare before curfew. Bamiyan, over 8,000 feet high in the Hindu Kush mountain range. The local Hazara people, descendants of Genghis Khan's Mongol invaders. It is known they were much persecuted by the Taliban for their Shia Muslim beliefs. It's also known the Taliban destroyed their beloved giant Buddhas. But I'm here to discover the true extent of the people's suffering and the untold story of how the Buddhas were destroyed.
Well, it's 6 in the morning. Feeling pretty good, actually. Didn't sleep too well. It's pretty cold. But what a fantastic scene. And here, well, that's the niche, I guess, yes, that's the small Buddha. And the big Buddha over there. What, of course, is immediately apparent is that even with the Buddha villainously destroyed, the niches still have power.
Bamiyan's 2 Buddha statues, in their scale unique in the world, stood a quarter of a mile apart, the larger at 180 feet high. Carved in the 3rd and 4th centuries, they survived for 1,600 years, until March 2001.
Wow. Now this is the niche in which the big Buddha stood. There you see it. My God, this is a kind of incredible moment. I mean, the pictures one saw of this. At the time, this was destroyed almost exactly a year ago. The world's reaction was fascinating, of course. I mean, great works of art like this belong to the world, and that's particularly appropriate here, of course, because we're standing on the Silk Route, this great ancient road of commerce, culture, religion, linking all the civilizations of the 1st, 2nd century AD, China over there, Rome, Imperial Rome, India, goods coming up and down. The whole of this complex is a product of that movement of cultures. Religion came along this road from India, from Nepal. Buddhism arrived here. A Buddhist complex was built here, 1st, 2nd century AD. Later, the Buddhists cut these great and majestic statues. They're the product of world culture. Of course, I'm standing on a large amount of the Buddha. The core, this is it. Here we have it, the sacred stone, the sacred image, reduced to rubble. Anyway, let's try over here. I think there's nothing carved on this at all. I mean, this is simply part of the core. Christ, there's a hand grenade under there. Why has it been booby-trapped? Oh. Well, I won't look at the other ones. You know, it's a dangerous place still. People keep telling me that. I forget it. It is.
I asked the people of Bamiyan how the Taliban went about destroying the Buddhas.
As soon as they entered any Hazara home, they asked us to leave. They asked us to put our shoes on, saying we had no right to live here. Then they put all our belongings in lorries and everything went. I know it all, I saw it all. People's belongings, animals and money. All they were allowed to wear was their own shoes.
It seems most of the town was moved out before the explosion started. Some people in a very brutal way.
Salam. So, could you ask how they were forced to leave the village?
We were forced out at gunpoint. They took my child from me and threw him on the ground, hurting his leg and breaking it.
The Taliban crippled the boy.
They threw him onto the ground. We thought he had been crippled. We didn't know what to do. Wherever we went for treatment, we didn't have enough money to pay. When we finally came back here, we took him to hospital. But now, he can't move his leg at all.
At last, I meet a man who was present as the Taliban destroyed the Buddhas, who even, against his will, helped them.
First, the Taliban decided to remove the people from this area. Most people went away. The Taliban then could do what they wanted to do. The first thing they did was to fire rockets and bombs at the statues, very high explosive ones. But it didn't work. Later they brought 6 lorries of explosives. They forced me and some others to go with them as prisoners. They made us carry the explosives up and down, setting them in various bits of the Buddhas. There were Arabs and Pakistani engineers to plant the explosives and blow up the statues. This procedure took 25 days to 1 month from the first explosion. When it exploded, the whole region was on fire. The explosion was that strong. The whole of Bamiyan was on fire with the strength of this explosion.
What's happened to the fragments of the Buddhas?
All of them were sold. The pieces were sold. They took everything away, put them in vehicles and sold them.
Tell me just what he felt at the time by being forced to do this.
I was very angry. We all were. But we were not able to say anything. What could we say? There was no one except them, the Taliban. They terrorized people, put them in prisons. Even if we were angry, there was nothing we could do about it. They made the decisions, they brought the engineers from Pakistan. We couldn't do anything. Not only me, but everyone was angry. It was a symbol for Bamiyan, for Afghanistan, even for the world. This was a barbaric act.
What we're seeing here, what we're documenting here, is a cultural and human tragedy of the first order.
The smaller Buddha stood at 125 feet high. Pilgrims would walk the sacred route up through staircases carved in the cliff around its head. Before the 25 days of sustained rocketing and blasting, the Buddha survived, with many original frescoes in adjoining rooms still intact.
Oh, look, moving amount survives of the drapery just over the right-hand shoulder of the Buddha on the left-hand side there. And that was painted blue originally. The statue was gilded and painted. I can't resist just touching the part of the fabric that survives. Again, making sure there's no ordnance lying around as there was. But here we have the drapery from the Buddha's body. And you see the fold still enough to understand this was inspired by Greece and Rome. This is the great thing, is fusion. So you have sort of Grecian-style drapery over the body of the Buddha, and this was painted blue. And fantastic to see this ornamentation scooped out of the surface. How these holes, obviously at this colossal scale, would have given life and movement to the great statue up there. A colossal work of art. Now, let me try getting inside here. So half the door's buried. I'm now following the route of the Buddhist pilgrim as he would have walked the staircase. Should take me up to a room behind the Buddha. Yes, I'm now on the side of the Buddha here. Bit of a drop here, but be a bit careful as we go along. I'm at the highest level now, the highest terrace, 3 or 4 stories, I suppose, above where I started. The last of the sanctuaries or chambers, and hole in the, my God. Well, there's more, but of course, sadly wrecked, but there's colour and the remains of decorative scheme. What has happened here? We're talking a little 4th or 5th century decoration. Fantastic dome. Wow, figures. What are they? It's hard to tell. I mean, it's been recorded as Buddhas and kingly figures, donors, and so on. You get some sense in here of the glories of below, the lost glories of Bamiyan here. When you consider the whole cliff face painted in colours like this, with architectural elements painted on, timber frame, archways, cornices. What a sight. This gives you some inkling of the colours. And these colours, if you consider, they may be over 1,500 years old. It's incredible. Oh, and here, at last, some larger elements, seated Buddhas, faces hacked off. Oh, there's a charming one. And here, just fragment of what's left behind. You see the original paint onto plaster, onto hay and mud. Yeah. Again, we go up here, staircases, cracks in the wall. Again, I assume from blasting. I'm now behind the Buddha. This is scary now. I should stop, because that's about as far as one can go with safety. So the passage went round the Buddha's head was just there on my right. This video very overexciting. And the thin air makes one very lightheaded.
How does it feel to be up here?
It feels very odd to be up here, you know. The sense of loss is just ghastly. I mean, I've got to keep reminding myself. Just, over a year ago, it's one of the great sacred sites, sacred images of the world was here. The site is still sacred, the image is gone. The present, though, remains. It's one of the most moving moments ever for me. What's to be done? Moment I don't know. Mixture of anger and regret. I mostly regret at the moment. Poor, benighted fools, really, is all one can say. The road from Bamiyan was very dusty and the facilities limited, to put it mildly, so a bit of cleansing process now in order. Incredibly, during Taliban times, what I'm about to do now was a crime punishable with a good flogging. What is this wicked thing? A shave. Now there's a chap somewhere, I think it's here. Yeah, this is the place.
If the Taliban had caught us shaving customers, we would have been jailed for a month and a half.
Really? Feels good. What is ticking? Just a little bit there.
Come, no.
Oh, that'd be a miracle if we got that. Enough's enough. So I really appreciate this. It's lovely. It's very good. Lovely, lovely. Very good. Feel much better. Younger, fresher. Afghani jackets. Takes back to the 60s. I've forgotten about those. God. That is fantastic. My God. Traditional carpet, but with Russian weapons all over it. Tanks, big sort of Russian 50 caliber kind of machine guns, rocket launchers. Good God above. Well, can I have a look at other ones? Yes, yeah. My God. Let's see. That's a rocket. Yeah. A bell grenade, AK-47, Russian tanks, armoured personnel. I've seen all these by the side of the road. Yeah. I can see them on a carpet. This is absolutely brilliant. But so this has now become like a traditional Afghan kind of carpet. Yeah. This is absolutely amazing, isn't it? This sort of I don't know, modern politics and military technology sort of combined with this traditional craft. Because these are beautifully made. This is the point. Beautifully made, traditionally made. But of course, in the past, the images shown on these traditional carpets were images important to people at the time. Sufi symbolism, Islamic abstract forms. And now the important thing is victory over the Russians and the means by which that victory was achieved.
This is the original one, which is they make 20 years before. Oh. This is it's the original.
But this is telling a story, isn't it? Yeah. They're now reduced to sort of traditional abstract images almost, aren't they? So the helicopter
tanks.
and what else we got? Helicopters.
Here's tank here.
Here's tanks. Armoured personnel carriers. And various trucks. And
this means this is a Muslim country. It's a mosque.
Well, okay. How much is this one then?
This is 350, my friend.
350. Yeah. Now we could do. So therefore.
This is a big one. This is an unusual piece. You will not get something everywhere such a thing.
I could probably, if we went through all the bargaining, get it for about 250. Yeah. But I'm on my knees.
We travel south through the desert to Ghazni. We are journeying into the Taliban heartland, towards the battlefront. The usual warm nature of the Afghans has changed. We are met with an icy, hostile reception. To our dismay, we find Ghazni's 11th and 12th century minarets surrounded by an ex-Taliban military camp. It's hard to know who is in control here, whether these men are friends or foe. Just days before, a US helicopter was shot down in a battle in neighbouring Gardez.
These minarets are pioneering structures. Built in the 11th and 12th centuries, they're amongst the world's first giant minarets. They really are of world importance. They stand here in what was once a great capital city, a great capital of the Ghaznavid Empire, this city was eventually leveled, destroyed by Genghis Khan in 1221. They're in terrible condition. They were damaged during the fighting with the Russians. Shells went through the minarets, one can see bits knocked out of them. And indeed, the battle is like it was yesterday. There are burnt out tanks, hulks everywhere. Extraordinary, it's the battlefield still, really. And I understand that the last threat to their very existence only a few months ago, because there was a Taliban camp just down there, and the Americans bombed this very site to hit the Taliban. So these are incredibly lucky to survive that last onslaught. Exposed to the weather, there's a sandstorm over there. One can't imagine these buildings can last much longer with no help. What a strange place. Gosh, this is absolutely beautiful. You know, it's much as it would have been when Alexander the Great went through here over 2,000 years ago. But standing here, one really can see why this is a country worth fighting for and why many people have felt it worth dying for. And the birds. It's hard to reconcile this with the savagery, the war, the desperation that's beset this country and still does.
Of all the mysteries surrounding Afghanistan's art treasures, the most perplexing is that of the Bactrian gold. Excavated in the late 1970s, the hoard of some 26,000 gold artifacts, dating from the 1st century AD, is one of the greatest archaeological finds the world has ever known, comparable with the great treasure of Tutankhamun. All we have to go on is photographs. Caught up in the fighting of the past 20 years, the treasure has completely vanished. But sources claim it is still safe somewhere in Kabul. Its hiding place a closely guarded secret. Do you know much about the Bactrian gold? Is it here?
It was last seen during the Taliban regime in 1999 by a delegation of archaeologists. They saw it, it was intact. But since then, no one I know has seen it or been able to check its survives.
Where is the gold now? And I've been told the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Culture particularly, or the vaults below the presidential palace. Do you believe it's one of those? Or?
It is one of those places, but we cannot reveal exactly where because of the tense security situation in the country at the moment. There is no way I can tell you.
Got it. Oh, well, and I'm not surprised. It just means that my quest goes on.
I feel that it's still intact, that it's still there. I've heard that several governments tried to blow up the vault, thick concrete. They couldn't gain access.
This is the Ministry of...
This is the presidential palace.
In the presidential palace, former royal palace now.
In the bank vault of the treasury, within the compound of the presidential
which was
palace.
a former royal palace, right, yeah.
Again, I've heard that somebody did succeed. Then I heard that the key system, there were 7, 8 keys necessary to get into
each
the
held
vault.
by a different person, presumably.
And each key in the hands of somebody else dispersed through the world now.
You've handled these, you've seen these, haven't you?
In 78, 79.
What's it like to what's it like to handle wonderful
The perfection of some of these small appliques. Even the Afghans were handling these things. Everyone was very close to weeping in the presence of something so superb. He said it shows that Afghanistan is a civilized country. Yes. If we came from something like this as part of our heritage.
The presidential palace is over there. That's, of course, where the bactrium gold is most likely to be in the vault. We might see the gold. I can't believe we will, but we might. Luck, good luck, good luck. Who knows, who knows?
We are led to meet the civil servant in charge of interim administration affairs.
Well, should I explain? Yes, sir. My name's Dan Cruickshank.
بخیر باشین. همیشه وزارت اطلاعات کلتور یک استعلام روان کرده، یک گروه فیلمبردارای BBC است. درست است. سلام.
We are told to wait as Prime Minister Karzai is consulted regarding our request.
Thank you. Cool. Excellent. Not a good sign.
Another hour goes by.
Well, we've got permission to enter the presidential palace, driving a few hundred yards from the ministry where we were waiting to the palace, which is over there. So, back entrance. Pretty sure it's over there. God, this is incredible. Our security man from the ministry is being frisked. Oh. No, I don't think so. No, maybe knife? No. Money, knife, no knife. We're in. Incredible. Wow. How absolutely splendid. Glorious. Classical palace. Wonderful.
At last we are shown a palace, known as a palace of the heart's desire, but it's not the building containing the vaults. We persuade our guide to show us the main presidential palace in an attempt to get to see the vaults.
No. Can I get inside this building? Ooh, golly, look at that. Okay.
As we enter, an argument breaks out between our Afghan entourage. Something is wrong.
Left on our own. Let's look for the vaults.
We should go.
Oh, they want us to go with them. I was very lucky. We were not meant to be there. Don't know why. That's about as near as I'll get, I guess, to the gold, bactrium gold. If it survives as a collection, the gold is undoubtedly in vaults below the building we've just been in, or in vaults below the bank over there. The authorities in control here, well, they won't admit its existence, let alone show it to me. I understand that. Things are not stable in the country at the moment. And criminal element, if they know the gold exists, could indeed have a go at getting it. And of course, elections, when they're held this summer, well, this could be chaos. I think we're being ushered out.
Fears for security mean it's difficult to see any of this country's surviving treasures.
This is the Ministry of Information and Culture. A somewhat decrepit looking place. Ladies.
The authorities grant me permission to see one heroically saved item. Hidden since the Taliban began its historical and cultural purge.
Right. It looks terribly Roman, this to me, a Bacchanalian scene. Not a font, presumably it's a wine bowl. Here you see lovely dancing girl naked. And she seems to be handing out drinks, being handed drinks by these chaps here. I can't quite make out the face. Genghis himself. Another naked person up to something over there. And you saved it by what, putting plaster or something over these figures?
Yes,
Covered it.
We covered the images with cotton wool, paper and sellotape, and diverted the Taliban's attention to the bottom of the bowl, claiming there were no images of living beings on it. Had the Taliban noticed the erotic imagery, they would have smashed it instantly.
And here more and more troops of dancing girls, all naked, full of wine, reveling people, music. Gosh, the Taliban would have been crawling up the wall with this, wouldn't they? This is absolutely fantastic. Well, it's wonderful, wonderful thing. Uplifting. The whole world must thank you for this. This is wonderful.
It's the eve of Islamic New Year. For the first time since the end of the rule of the Taliban, traditional festivals and celebrations can be performed once more.
Salamun alayka, salamun alayka, alayka basurat muakhir bamani muqaddam basurat muakhir bamani muqaddam Mossad Buddhas
It has been 5 years since we had been able to celebrate this night in our own way, free from threat of oppression. This is a special evening for us. It's the start of a new era of life, a new page of paper for the Afghans. We're hoping that there will be peace, that there will be stability. Men and women will be free to be educated. It's just the start of something we've been hoping for a long time.
On BBC Sounds, Greg Jenner dives into the BBC archives, stumbling across random dates, and listens to recordings to explore what they say about who we are now. Past Forward, a century of sounds.